Well, let's revisit these dongles that I've been working with. My ultimate goal is to take these scooter packs. I have 5 of them, and make a battery box out of them. I've got a wheeled battery box. I've also got these happen to be 36 volts. I've been charging them up to 42, letting them run down to about 30. Haven't let them run down yet, but that's what my ultimate goal is. Because of all the dongle issues, I took off the original adapters, which were this barrel connector, which is hard to get. I cut them all off and I spliced XT90 connectors on there. I've got a XT60 connector on the charge side of the battery, which works through the BMS. And then on the output, I've got an XT90. Now the problem comes in with these particular scooter batteries is that the BMS was proprietary and they had no way of activating them. And then some guys on the blog figured out that if they took a little mini board, and programmed it to spit out code back to the BMS once every 5 seconds, it sends out a signal, says, hey, I'm here, I'm alive. Then the BMS will kick in and actually activate and work on the output side of things. So you see I've got a little adapter here that I made up with XT90s. I've got a little voltmeter in line. You can see my battery is running 40.9. But the problem is every time you put a load on it, BMS kicks off. So there's been 2 different people on the internet that have offered these dongles. This particular smaller dongle is offered by a guy named Aaron, who, if you look up a website called Faustian Bargain, and come to find out Faustian Bargain means something else. But and there's a whole bunch of pages to search through, but you'll find him, Faustian Bargain. Well, Aaron devised this board himself. He changed the design of it, and I bought 2 of these. And when he changed the design, he went with these towers so that you don't have to solder anything on. What's nice about this board is that it's got a built-in voltage converter, which converts the voltage from 36 volts down to 5 volts to actually send this impulse back to the BMS. It's very small and compact. The problem is I ordered 2 of them, got them both in. They didn't work. When I contacted Aaron, he said that there was a problem on one of the negative traces on the board design or something that didn't work. So he assured me that he would take care of it with me. And sure enough, he did. So we just got these in the mail a couple of days ago. These are 2 brand new units that I've not tried yet. But I like the size and the design of this. In the meantime, Jag 35 got more dongles in. That's the one I was waiting for. So you can really see the difference here in sizes between the 2 boards. Now what Jag 35 did is he had to have a Bucks converter and an Arduino chip programmed. Basically the same thing. It's just a bigger board. Now which one's going to work out better, I don't know yet. So I've got to wire them up today. With the one from Jag 35, it did have the barrel connector on the end. Now in hindsight, if I would have just waited longer, I could have got the dongle that had four of these on there, and I would have been okay with my 4 batteries, but I have 5 batteries, so I decided to go ahead and wire up an XT90 on that. This center connection is going to go to the BMS. So that's going to go into here. And hopefully this one will work exactly the same way. So stay tuned on this. We'll find out if the Jag 35 works on 1 battery. We'll find out if the Jag 35 works on multiple batteries, all 5 of them. And then we'll find out if the Faustian Bargain works on all of them as well. I guess I have backups now. If something goes down, something goes out, at least the battery packs are still usable. if I've got 3 of these things. Or I could split that battery pack into 2 or 3 different units. You know, make one for a scooter, make one for a electric bike, or make one for my battery box. However I want to do it. So just a quick update for now, and we'll give you some more once this thing gets hooked up, and we'll see if it's pulling a load. I plan on pulling the load out with this inverter, 36 volt, 1500 watt inverter from reliable sources. That just came in yesterday as well, so been waiting for all this stuff to come in. All right, stay tuned. Okay, I'm ready to do my first testing. Let me just take you around and show you what I've got hooked up. First thing is I have 3 of my 5 battery packs. The output power all running down into this junction that I made. Running down. And this is running into the Jag35 Arduino BMS activator board. And on the BMS activation side, I've got these 3 white wires running down to this junction, which will be hooked up later on. And just a simple putting those 2 wires together, and I'm good to go. After the Jag35, I've just got my port in there so that I can see my voltage. I've also got that other unit in there, but it's not working. It's not doing anything. And I don't have the BMS connection even hooked up to it. Coming out of the power, this is actually a 12 gauge. I probably need a 10. But that's a 12 gauge silicone wire to the back of the inverter. And then on the front of the inverter, for testing purposes, I've got a kilowatt meter. And I've got this heater, which actually has 3 different modes in it: fan only, power setting 1, and power setting 2. Now my idea here is not to burn up my inverter the first day I have it, so I want to be very careful. My idea is just get a working system. I probably won't be pushing 1,000 watts anyway, but we'll see how this thing goes. The main reason to test this is to see whether the Jag35 board is working properly, and the 2 new boards that I got from the Faustian bargain are working. So let's go ahead, set this camera up where you can see what I'm doing. Nothing's out of view that way. When I did hook up here, I did get a little bit of a spark, so I know that the capacitors in the inverter probably wound up. Turn the inverter on, you'll see 40.7 on my 3 battery packs, which correlates pretty close with my 40.89. There we go, 40.8. So those correlate nicely, and then you see the 123 volts coming out. Now let's set this up for wattage so we can see how many watts we're pulling out of that thing. Now, I do not have the BMS board hooked up, so theoretically this thing should shut off when it's under a load. Turn the fan on first, which is pulling what, 16 watts? And you can see it's still working at 16 watts. It'll pull 16 watts without the BMS working. When I move it up to heater 1, (200 watts, 230, 250, 270), my inverter shuts down. My battery packs have completely shut down. The entire power in the whole system has shut down when I got up about, what, 230 watts. So we'll go ahead and turn this back off. It takes about 1 minute for the system to reset itself. The BMS inside the scooter packs will actually come back on. So I'm going to pause this video and come back when that happens. Oh, I just caught it. Okay, the system just came back on. Now I have nothing drawing power. I don't have the fan on. You can see everything is back to normal. Let me make sure this is set on wattage. 0 watts. The only thing I did when we were paused was I went ahead and plugged in the BMS module. So now hopefully this board is sending a signal every 5 seconds to the BMSs in those battery packs to keep them going. So the first test we're going to do is we're going to turn it on the fan again. Keep an eye on our wattage. 16 watts, 16.2. Now if the BMSs are working, theoretically when I turn it up to this next heat setting and it pops up to 300 or 400 watts, maybe 500 watts, should keep going. 230, 250, 270, 290, 300, 344, 400. I'm feeling heat coming off the thing. 500 and what? 600. So, it appears to be working. Boy, it's sucking the battery down, but you can see it's sucking the battery down, and I'm not quite sure, other than me, what's getting hot in here. So I'm not going to keep it going very long. But my goodness, you can see I'm up to 787 watts already. So this board does work. It's sending a signal, and it's working. Up to 800. I don't want to push this inverter. It's brand new, first time I've used it. We're going to shut that down at 812. I know a lot of you might be thinking, now I'm back down to 16 watts with my fan blowing. A lot of you might be thinking, well, hey, go ahead and push that thing up. Get a hairdryer on there. Put this thing on number 2. But I'm not up for burning these things up. And I've saw on a few sites where people love them or they hate them, one or the other. You know, a lot of people have had good luck with these smaller ones, the under the 3,000 watt ones, and then other people have burned them right up right away. They've either crossed terminals or the neutral and the ground, or they've overkilled them with a saw or something. So I kind of like to have a functioning unit when I'm all done here. So like I said, I pushed it up to, what do we have, 800 watts? That's pretty good. If I run that thing 3/4 of the way, I'm pretty happy with that. So this board, Jag35, thank you, sir. Did a wonderful job. That one's working. And now we'll try the other one. We'll try the brand new replacements from Faustian Bargain. Okay, let's get to these Faustian Bargain boards, Aaron's boards that he developed. They are, as you can tell, much smaller. They essentially do the same thing. They take the 42 volts, or 36 volts I should say, 36 nominal, from the battery, and they run it through a buck converter and down to, it's either 3.3 or 5 volts, I forget which one, but it's one or the other. I think it's 3.3, in order to run out this blue wire for your communication port for your BMS. So what he's done is he's made it all into one small compact board. Now the first set that he sent me did not work. They did not come with any instructions or anything either. And for the life of me, these are brand new towers. The other instructional video that he had did not show how to hook them up. So I've kind of taken my multimeter and went across them and figured out, for example, here's the old one that doesn't work. On the switch, I marked it with red. That's turned on, which means that would be turned off then. So I'll mark the new one the same way so that I know. And then I also marked the side of the terminals. Now you do see a very small B positive down there. So I'm assuming I'm doing this correctly. I've got the positive going on that tower. You see I marked them positive and negative. Got the negative going on this tower. And then the communication point with the blue wire, you can see up in their third there's something that says blue way up in there. That's what I hooked into this particular. I'm running out of connectors, so I'm using everything I have. That particular one I ran up inside for the communication port for the BMS. So I don't think I need that big of a watt. I think I'll cut it down to just one wire, and we'll try these. We'll go from there. So I'll go ahead and pull these out. As you can see, I already had them loosened up. That's the old one. And we'll go ahead and put this new one in. Uh-oh. I'm going to mark them. Guess what? I left my damn cap off. Well, I guess I can mark the negatives and the off position on that switch. You can see, I just wanted to point out one more thing. I dipped the ends in solder just so that they don't come apart on me when they're up inside there. And there's no touching one another. Okay, here we go. I got one of the new ones hooked up here. First of all, coming off my battery pack through this little adapter I made with my voltage meter on it, so I can keep an eye on my battery voltage. Now I've got the unit hooked up, wired up properly to my knowledge. I've got the switch in the on position, and I think I'm ready to turn on my inverter and see what happens. I did get a little bit of a arc or spark when I plugged them together. Inverter's on. Fairly consistent with my battery voltage. Make sure my wattage is set correctly on here. 0 watts. Now, there is no, on this particular board, there is no flashing light or anything to, I guess, rob you of power, even though an LED wouldn't take that much. But he's put an on and off switch on it, which is actually very convenient because you can just switch it off when you're not using it. So that's really nice. The other one, I imagine you have to unhook. It does have LEDs in it. Or just deal with the power loss over, significant amount of time or whatever. All right, let's go ahead and flip this heater up to fan. See what happens. Now, before this ran just fine. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy there. 16 watts, same thing. So that one's working well. Now, let's go ahead and crank it up. See if we can get it up above, where did it cut out before? Maybe about 250 watts. We're going to turn it on to the heater, stage 1. And I'll keep an eye on the watt meter and see if this thing kicks out. Oh, Aaron. Not working. Okay. We'll pause this for 1 minute. We'll wait for it to come back on. I'll turn my heater off. Back down completely off. And we'll wait for this to come back on. Once it resets itself, it takes about a minute. Then we'll try the switch in the other direction. See what happens there. Now I do have, just to be sure, here's my communication ports. Running into this pigtail, running down through here. And plugged in to the center area there. So you see I do have my communication hooked up. Hopefully it's nothing but that switch. Oh, man, I hope so. Alright, there's the reset. Got the switch turned in what I thought was the off position, but maybe it's the on position. See, I marked it with black marker. Fan. I think running fine. Get my watt meter back up there. 16 watts. Alright, here we go. Heater, number 1. 250, 270. Okay. So the first brand new one I've tried does not work unless I'm hooking it up wrong. Let me get the second one out and try that one. Okay, here we go again. Second unit hooked up. Here's the first one of the new batch. Remember I marked it with a negative there, the black here. Here's the first set. It didn't work a month ago. And I got this new set last week. So now I'm all set up and ready to try it again. All hooked up. We'll turn the inverter on. Make sure we're on wattage. Ooh. Oop, I was left on. Let me turn that back down to nothing. Okay. Left the heater on is what I did. Left the switch on when it shut off. So now you can see battery voltage is okay, output's okay. Wattage is 0. You can see I'm hooked up here. This is the communication line. Goes down into the same, oops, get up here where you can see it, to the same white wires that I was using before. So the only thing really different between what I'm doing now and what I was doing over on the Jag 35 dongle is I've got a different adapter here, different wire going down, but I've got them all bundled together down to the batteries, BMSs. So let's see what happens. Same scenario, we'll run the fan first. $16 we're doing okay. I have my switch to the right. Now we'll move it up to number 1 and watch that wattage climb. And it shuts down. You can see the BMSs, that's the battery. BMSs are the thing that's shutting down on it. It'll take about a minute to reset. So during that minute, I'll switch this the other direction. And I'll turn my heater back off. Now, before you say I've got something wrong or I don't know, I wish you'd make a comment in the comments below. Excuse me, I know I'm a novice here and I got a hodgepodge of wires, but they all should be working. We'll test this one more time, and if it fails, then I'll show you some continuity checks. Just to make sure what I've hooked up here is actually working. There's the reset from the BMS. And I'm just going to, got to get my wattage back to 0. I'm just going to go straight for heat this time. And the BMS is draining down to nothing. It'll take about a minute and it'll reset itself again. Now in the meantime you might be thinking, hey, is the board getting any juice? Wait till that resets and I'll just show you. Make sure I'm on DC voltage 200. Make sure I can get this where you can see it. That would be actually pretty good. Don't say anything about my cheap multimeter. I love this one. It's great. It works great, and it's Harbor Freight deal. All right, we're on reset mode. I'm going to turn off that inverter just because I don't want it back there singing. You can see, again, we're showing voltage here. So what we'll do is we'll check the voltage. We got our positive and negative here, and you can check it up there. So you can see I've got voltage to this tower, so that's not it. Move the switch the other. I'm still going to have voltage to the tower. Makes no difference. Now let's switch over and check the continuity. For the continuity, I actually prefer my other meter. But let me unhook this first so that we don't have any power going through. Power draining completely down. Just going to unplug the inverter as well. Oh, lose it in the floor. Now this is my BMS connection here. I just like the audible on this particular meter because I can hear it. So we'll check the connection between the BMS lead here and we'll go downstream. So you can see that just ruled out my wire here, my connection there, and these white wires were working on the other one. So as far as communication goes, that's getting continuity that way. I'm at a loss if you've got any ideas, or Aaron, if you happen to watch this, if you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm hooking this thing up wrong. But, you know, it appears to be positive, negative, and then the middle one is the communication wire for the BMS. So I sure would appreciate some guidance or something. It'd be nice, maybe, hopefully you checked these things out before you sent them to me to make sure they were programmed and everything was working all right. But it is rather frustrating. So, you know, at this point, all I can do is recommend and use this one. From Jag 35, but to be honest with you, this is the one I wanted to use because of the size and because I had two of them, so I could split my battery pack into two different battery packs if I wanted to. So I'm at a little bit of a loss. If anybody out there's got any ideas or solutions or suggestions, you know, constructively, I'd appreciate it. And I guess that's it from here. So this is the Dongle Wars Part 3, I guess. Thanks for watching and take care.